This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm McKay. This is Harry Jones. Happy New Year to you, my friend. How are you for 2025?
How's it, Brett? We're doing this again. We're stepping into the void. We just cannot stop ourselves.
No, we can't. We can't stop ourselves. What did you think of the new music?
No, that's good. It's interesting to me because I think every time I hear the theme music for any pod, I try to imagine, does it fit the host? Does it it evoke the show? I think we've kind of nailed it now.
I think we have. And more importantly, no YouTube copyright claims.
Yeah, you were wading through a number of them. I don't think you've learned
I'm
several
undefeated
new
so
jurisdictions' laws.
We have, yes, so we have it. We have indeed.
What are you wearing there, man?
I'm wearing a new jersey, and I have to thank Ivan Gavzov for this. And Ivan is heavily involved in refereeing here in the ACT southern area of part of New South Wales, and this is of his home club, the Skopje Wild Boars Rugby Club, from his hometown, which happens to be the capital of North Macedonia, Skopje. It's the first and oldest rugby club in Skopje, and I've got to say, I like it. It's good. It's a good strip.
It is, and I think of all the mascots that rugby clubs choose, I always thought the wild boar was the most apt.
Yes,
that is
indeed.
Definitely like a proper pack.
Indeed, and a bit of a throwback to the fictional team that we once upon a time used to pick as well. To kick off season 2 of the 8-9 Combo, we've got a wonderful selection of our favourite guests from 2024 coming up in just a moment. And mate, there wasn't a lot of science to this. It was just the bits from the guests last year that lingered in our memories the best, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's all about combinations for us. I mean, that's why we are the 8-9 Combo. It's not the most obvious combination on the rugby pitch. You know, you hear a lot more about the midfield, you have the Lucy's, you hear about the back three, the front row. But the 8-9 is not only a very important combination, I feel like it's getting more important with the law changes. With the 9 being the opposing 9 being kept back. Now the 8 and 9 are going hunting together. So in my mind, the clips we've chosen exemplify unusual or unlikely combinations that just worked. That's my summary.
Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Yeah, look, it was good fun. It was just pulling out the bits that we remembered, but the bits that we actually really enjoyed, or that we took something away from, and all that. So, it's good fun. Tell me this though, mate. Why, in the grand old world of 8-9 combos, why are the 8s always so subservient to 9s?
That is definitely something in the mind of the 9s walking around the earth. 9s are funny. They remind me of that old saying, everyone's a moderate in their own mind. Like, no one on the rugby pitch thinks that the 9 is a proper balanced human being. They walk around with serious problems.
Well, this is clearly not going to make the final cut, that's for sure. But with no further ado, here it is then, the second of our summer break best ofs, our favourite guests of 2024.
It's also the best mascots, I think, in the world.
Yes.
And of course, the Dynabores, it's difficult to imagine Dynabore, but I kind of think it might be Ben Franks, your forwards coach. Any truth to that?
That's a good shout.
Yeah, probably. He keeps on flirting with coming back as well. I think he probably saw his brother and got a little bit jealous. But no, it's he's a scary guy, so I'd happily have him as our mascot, and I'd imagine him running out against a few of the others. I'm sure they'll be intimidated right from the get-go.
You got to get a snippet of him speaking Japanese. How's his Japanese?
It wouldn't be a long snippet, put it that way. You could definitely put it as a soundbite. No, it's very difficult, but we're blessed with translators and all that.
Yeah, you have a lot of Kiwi coaches, right? I mean, I think there's 4 or 5. So
yeah, we do.
Is it all in English mostly, or Kiwi English?
Or what they call Jinglish. It's predominantly Japanese. Our coaches few of our coaches, they will speak in English, but most of the squad is Japanese and fully Japanese. And honestly, there's a lot of inefficiencies because of it, but at the same time, it's worth it. So on the field, you have players who are bilingual who help. The water boy will, might be in Australia. You might pick your physio or whatnot. You probably need a translator more often than not.
Yeah,
so we get translators come in, and so we can kind of, there's a lot of different things at play that I definitely didn't experience, and trying to get messages across to the team as a 10, it's really hard because every message you give, it's automatically double in length. So you've got to shorten everything. You've got to get right to the point, and it's quite tricky.
Does it mean that Super Rugby is very much an afterthought now in the Republic?
No, it's hard to let go of old lovers.
Oh, that's interesting to me.
We still, even though you won't find it on the Super Sport front page, I think because they have a vested interest in the ERC doing well, so they do the Fox News thing of it doesn't exist because it doesn't. They still actually show the games in South Africa, so there is still a very big contingent of people. I can walk in my office on a Friday morning past every computer, and 3 out of 5 might have a Super Rugby game going in the top corner or bottom corner, because on a Friday morning there's rugby on in New Zealand or Australia. You pop it on your screen, you watch it,
and you watch it
Friday night or Saturday morning early. You're about to cut the lawn, but you're not going out yet. You pop on a rugby game first, waiting for your kids to wake up or something like
breakfast
that.
Rugby. Breakfast rugby.
Yeah, we still watched it. We might not be as invested in it as before, but it's still shown you.
Yeah,
I think South Africans are insatiable in general, right? Insatiable for food, for drink, but also for argument, for rugby, for experience. I think in a way it's just hard to underestimate how much they could consume, and so it was always something that could have worked. I think there were different things Super Rugby could have done that would have made it better. But it was never really doomed just because of time zones. It was there were other reasons I think that Super Rugby stepped in it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think time zones became the go-to argument.
Yes, exactly. When it all gone sour, when it went from Super 10, 12, 15, 16, 18, then you added things in Japan, Argentina.
Never heard of it. 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that was the standard. That was the standard. What about the state of the Cheetahs, and I suppose to a lesser extent the Kings? Are they effectively become casualties of a South African Union business decision, or does the Cheetahs still playing in Europe kind of make up for that?
I think that's the olive branch that was given to the Cheetahs for kind of saying, no, you're out now. The Kings are gone. They were a basket case. They don't exist anymore. There's no more there, which is sad because the Eastern Province is like, if you think the Western Cape is a hotbed of talent, Eastern Province, which is right next to the Western Cape, is just as good for unearthing talent. I mean, Makazole Mapimpi, Lucanio the Watsons, I think Rassi himself.
Sia Khaleesi as well.
Sia Khaleesi. All of these guys are from that part of the world. So it's something I wish we were more into building. But no, the Cheetahs, I think, the EPCR Challenge Cup thing is like, we're sorry, here's something for you to do. And then the rest of the year you can play the Force. Twiggy will sponsor your flights to Australia.
Yeah, and they obviously still playing the Curry Cup and doing fairly well there. So that's right.
Johnny, how do you guys decide what to wear for your presentations? I'm really confused. Sometimes it's the golf shirts.
Wait, before we get to there, let's actually step back a bit here. How are you going, mate? Having to actually wear proper clothes to the rugby now. You can't just rock up in shorts and t-shirts and a thong and thongs, not a thong,
and the thong
in the commentary box.
All
of a sudden you are on, mate.
Do you wear a thong? Is that real stuff? Inside information?
Only for test matches, only for the big ones.
So sometimes I see you in the matching golf shirts or the corporate wear, and then sometimes I think this week you rocked up in let's go go to school or something. You had school clothes on. and Timmy Horan had like a weird ill-fitting sweater polo that was kind of man boobing him a little bit, moving him.
Look, I tell you what, I don't know how much of this I can take you behind the curtain of some of the wardrobe things that have happened in my time at Stan and Nine, but I think now we're in a spot that I like, that everyone gets to sort of forge a little bit of their own personality in terms of what they wear on air, which is what they do in the NFL, as you guys would know, on the Monday Night Football over there. People wear what they want to wear, and it all sort of comes together. So that's, I mean, it's a chat for another day. What's happened on the wardrobe front? I don't want to go into it.
We'll say
I don't want to go into it.
For a
but
beer
hey,
at the Rocking
if you've got any suggestions that you want to see sported, I'm happy to take them on board, big guy.
Well, anytime it pans to inside the box, I really like that moment because you always seem really comfortable and you're all over the place. Yeah, you're gesticulating. You're basically like rocking and mauling poor Timmy. And then Timmy's in between like a tiny hooker in between two giant props. It's good fun.
But the thing is, I mean, the way that, and there's a reason for that. So I think I've touched on this with you guys before when I was working initially with my voice coaches going way, way back, the great Donnie Woodburn, who had suggested that we all communicate best when we're as comfortable as we can be. So the place that you'll communicate best, most likely, is at home, in your lounge room or your dining room with your family, with loved ones. You probably aren't wearing shoes, you're comfortable, and that's when you're most expressive, and that's when you find your best voice and the rest of it, because that's where most battles and, you know, most love is shared and the rest of it. So I've taken that on board and run with it for a number of years, and it seems to work, because if I'm comfortable like that, chances are you're at home, you're comfortable watching on the TV with family and friends and the rest of it. So there is a reason behind that to try and make it feel like it's your space.
Yeah.
Breaking news, Sean Maloney commentates barefoot. That's what I got out of that.
Oh, I knew that. I absolutely knew that. Absolutely knew that. I think it's been an interesting insight. We sort of get a little peek into the commentary box, and I think mostly it's gone beautifully this year, except the night that we could see Justin Harrison's pad thai.
normally, like, so Morgs hates it. He won't mind me saying, but he hates the on-box cam. He really doesn't like it. Because normally he has plates of party pies, you know. He hates it.
This is the beauty of radio.
I like it. I like that you get to see sort of what we do. Obviously, they do it on Fox with the cricket. A lot of those other games where there are long pauses between key moments and you can cut to it. We're on camera for maybe 5-6 seconds top.
Yeah.
Excuse me, to go. It's an establishing shot to see who's talking, and it's back to live pictures. I really enjoy it. I like it. I think it's a good innovation from the Boston.
How much notice do you get that it's coming?
Not
enough
sort of
is
set
the
it
answer.
up. So I can button onto the producer to Ellie or Swain and say, let's get to it now, and director Hamish will do it. Or other times there'll be a little bit of warning, and they'll button onto the three of us and say, we're going to come to you in a few seconds. But
you're on in 5.
It's nice to keep on the toes. Yeah. Put the pies away.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You know it's going to happen, but where in the 80 minutes is it going to happen?
It's a drinking game. We're all waiting for it. And Harrison, does he practice the growl all the time? Is it kind of like, do you have to set your microphone especially for that? It's even on mundane moments, like throw to the front. I'm like, why are you growling on that?
That's how Gulcher speaks in general. Like, that's honestly, like, when I get back to, you know, sort of saying how we'd all speak at home with loved ones and friends, the rest of it, that's how
I'm imagining that.
To me, that's how he'll speak to me about the dumplings he's going to order from Hoochie Mama down in Melbourne.
Do that. Give us that, please.
He's like, mate,
Barbecue pork buns,
chicken and prawn dumplings with this numbing sauce, mate. And I'm like, let's go. We're gonna go. I love him. I love him. But he's got that gravelly, deep voice, and it just comes with no effort. HJ, that's how he speaks in general terms as well. He's not putting that on. That's just the big guy's his tone, and I love him.
He's got the perfect mix of not unlike us, Harry. He's got the perfect mix of mostly nonsense but occasional insight, which is just brilliant. And you can't ask much more than that.
Yeah, it's true. Shawnee, we were both, Brett and I both acted in the same play, but it was like continents apart, years apart. He was the Tin Man, and I was the Scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz. Like, he did not have a heart, and I did not have a brain. And it carries on. It's a New South Wales, Queensland problem.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Yeah, Tony, I love listening to you commentate, and it's one of the few TV commentators I actually don't mind if I'm just listening to. For some reason, I have to look at something else. You almost have a radio style in the sense that you tell a story. I imagine in a game like that, you don't have to work too hard. You're genuinely excited about the game yourself, and it comes through. One thing I noticed about you is you don't use the same words a lot. You actually have a different way to describe these plays. You're not a crutch commentator who comes back to their stock phrases. Is that something you've worked on, or is it just the way you talk?
Actually, it is something that I've worked on. When I first started, and this is going back a lot, you guys probably weren't even born. I came under the wing of a guy called Alan Richards, and he was New Zealand's premier cricket commentator. And Alan was a guy who could sit very comfortably alongside the greats, be it Alan McGilvray at the MCG or Brian Johnson, John Arlott and co at Lords. And he impressed on me. I followed him around everywhere. Even on my day off, if he was working at the cricket, I would go and I'd sit there and I'd listen, but more I'd watch and see how he was working. And he impressed on me at a very early stage of my career, the need to have a good vocabulary. And you do find that there are games where you think, God, I used that word 5 times or something like that. Stop it, smack on it. But it is something. A lot of the time, your instincts take over when the game starts. But the other expression I like there too, storytelling. I think that's what we're doing. Every game is a story.
Kevin, how are you going? How's your family handling this? Are you and your family the go-to for the other families? Like, have you guys have to become the calm voice for not just the players and the staff, but everyone associated with the club?
No, I think, personally, my family, I'll be honest, I've kept it away from my children as long as possible. My son's old enough to know now. And it's so funny, he came to a game, it was the Drua game. And, it was quite a hectic game with a few red cards and shenanigans going on.
A little bit hectic.
And I don't know what happened, but he was sitting in the family stands, and obviously people from the Drua had given tickets, and there were people in the family box at the Melbourne Rebels shouting for the Drua, which obviously upsets him greatly, and he couldn't understand that. And then people were making comments, and he heard, obviously, and it started to dawn on him. And so he just told me, well, I'm not coming back. I don't want to see that again, sort of thing. So I understand his challenges, but I actually think I must talk about Nick Stiles here, because I feel like he's done a brilliant job across everyone. He brought in these caps for the old boys this year. So, you'll when you get capped, you get that beautiful little sort of cap. And so when we played against the Waratahs, he invited the old boys into the change rooms afterwards. And we had guys like Tom English, who made 99 games for the club, come in afterwards, and we kept them there in the change rooms.
Cool.
And Andrew Deegan, and then we went to Queensland last weekend, and Gus Cottrell, who's one of my favorite guys I've ever coached in my whole life. He came with Campbell Manga and Scott Hickenbotham, and so we had these old boys touching. And so what Stilesy's done, he's reached right out to the families, and he's spoken about the special club that we are. And then I'll be honest with you, it's our directors, the people who've probably been hurt the most through all of this, who've been smashed in the media, who've been so supportive. Having people around for dinner, traveling with us, being incredible around that support. So again, people have, under the most pressure, have showed their real colors, and they've come up and really supported us. So yeah, look, from my perspective, my family is, we talk about gratitude all the time and how lucky we are to be in Australia. And we talk about, we've got each other, and that's cool, and so whatever comes next, as long as we do it together, we'll be fine.
Isn't that like such a cool challenge for our game? Hang on, I got a friendly lorikeet here, won't leave me alone. Yeah, look at this.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's genuinely a friendly lorikeet.
It's going to butt my head off. I've got a bird phobia, so if I jump up here in a second, I'll be, excuse me.
Well, birds are our ancient enemy, Kel, so be careful.
Oh, they're horrible things. I'm just going to scare this fella off here. Get out of here. Rag off.
Oh, I can honestly say we've never had to pause a podcast.
Get a bird injury. Girls do not. Do
No,
that.
do not.
No,
get, I
they're
can,
going. Mate, that thing,
Most
that bird
exotic
would
rugby
not
injury
leave.
ever.
Mate, I
can
went
you
and bought
imagine
a dog? I went and bought a dog to scare off the pigeons in the cafes, and the fat little thing is asleep on the floor here next to me, and there's birds everywhere. Horrible.
I can recommend the bird scaring capacities of Jack Russell's, mate.
Oh,
we've got
fantastic.
no birds in our backyard now.
What was the ratio of how many hours hit the cutting floor to how many, to the actual 5-part series?
Good question. I've got a follow up here too.
Yeah.
It is a great question. I don't know, but I'll guess. I reckon the ratio is probably 50-1.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, right.
Right. Maybe more. Maybe more.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount.
Yeah.
Huge.
So
yeah.
So my follow up there, Gareth, then is for every minute that we saw across the 10 episodes across the 2 series, how much time editing do you think for that 1 minute of footage?
It's probably more than ours.
Have a guess. Tell me what you would guess. I'm interested.
Well, I had a bit of background in news for a few years, and the golden rule in news was that for every minute of a story, it was about an hour edit time. And I can imagine for a doco like yours, it's probably it might be 10 minutes, it might be an hour. I don't know.
I reckon 25 to 50 hours per minute.
Yeah.
Per minute. Yeah, wow. That's incredible.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
What you've got to remember with a story like this is it completely, the edit process is the process. And that isn't to undermine how critically important the guys who are in the camp and Russell, who are filmmaker in the camp, that's not underestimating the importance of their role. But the story and the creative process is all edit. We do some writing before we begin, but even that is often proven to be incorrect because you're writing what you think is happening.
Yeah. And then Marks goes down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then exactly. So you build different scenario sets, so you prepped. But then once you start cutting, that's the thing. And what we've learned in this process is that you got to make. So we would also, when you talk about the ratio of cutting room floor to finished art, maybe the more interesting ratio is how many fully created minutes don't make it. And I reckon that's probably 3 or 4 to 1. So we will generate storylines which are finished. Like we could put them on air tomorrow, but don't make the final series.
That's actually very interesting. My question was along those lines of storyboarding. You're trying to storyboard a plot that doesn't exist yet. You have contingencies. You build it around people. You go, my most verbal people. Like Six Nations thing, I was a dud because you had Stuart Hogg, who was a dous, and then you have Joe Marler doing his stuff. It's kind of old and tired. I thought Chasing the Sun explored people who aren't normally on the camera, and so you saw people who are extremely authentic. A guy from the farm who's not really gonna be talking that much. But you don't know. The worst moment is that sound of Marks. The best moment is Peter Steph Toy saying, "Is here bang? Are you done? Tell us on my plan." That is unless you grew up around that and understand the understated violence of that statement of saying, "Are you tired? We'll make a plan." It's hard to know. Even Rossi said he had no idea that was coming because Peter Steph never talks. So, it's like you're making a story that it's not written yet, but you have to have backups because what if the Boks had lost to the French?
Yeah, so during the filming process, we had 3 parallel production plans. Obviously, we always knew that we'd win the World Cup.
Yes.
But we actually had plans in place. What does the story look like if we go out in the quarters? What does the story look like if we go out in the semis? Because just from a pure, I think of it as maths, right? From a pure minutes of game usage as part of your storytelling mix, if we go out in the quarters, we don't have the semi-final or the final game, but we still have the same deliverable as in a 5-episode series.
Exactly.
So we were running these different things in parallel. And so you cannot even imagine. You guys were nervous in those 1-pointers. There was a team of people in Joburg who were paralyzed by nerves.
Beyond nervous. Yeah.
I'll tell you what one doesn't want to do is make a documentary series about a team that you deeply, deeply love who didn't win.
Ultimately, who makes the final decision? Is it always still in the hands of the referee? And then the follow-on to that, I suppose, is are there circumstances where if the referee is about to make a decision you know is wrong, have you still got the ability to overrule?
On both accounts, you're spot on. Referees, obviously the sole judge, whatever it says in the law book, and I should know it exactly, but I don't. I'm sorry, boys. I know my grounding. I know my foul plays. Yes, I'm not a referee anymore. But listen, he still has the sole judgment of the decision.
Yeah.
But in reality, the way that it's been set up is that basically any of those tight grounding calls where you're sitting in front of a HD TV, not looking at a big screen 45 meters away that's pixelated, and there's 3 guys out the front holding schooners, putting a snake up in front of it. The reality is that sometimes the decision is best made from a person sitting in the TMO box. And those scenarios are, your foot in touch, like the really close touch calls, the really close grounding calls where you go, hey mate, I can't see that down here on a 1975 TV, and you can see it in front of a 4K TV.
The one with Scotland and France, Nick Berry, and you're trying to look at a blade of grass. That one, like that kind.
Yeah, it wasn't me. I wasn't there. Just for clarity. But yes, 100%. And then if we go down the other avenue, when it comes to refereeing decisions, which are kind of your obstructions, your forward passes, the ones that are judgment calls, generally speaking, what will happen is that a TMO will go, Nick, I just want you to have a look at a potential obstruction by 13 red. And he goes, okay, so Brett thinks this is obstruction, but I'm going to look at it myself and go, okay, Brett, I'm having a look at 13 here. Okay, he's run behind a lead runner, so I do see it as obstruction, so I'm going to go back. Or he could go the alternate route and go, yeah, Brett, I see what you're saying there. For me, he's received that on the outside shoulder, hasn't created an obstruction.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. And then to come to your last part is to go, actually, Nick, I'm going to show you another angle because I think you're clearly wrong. Now,
right.
From our perspective, this is us going, oi, mate, I'm telling you, you are so clearly wrong. You need to listen to me. And that's almost like code word for going, okay, just show me that other angle. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm seeing that now.
Yes.
And we are talking about, and in all honesty, Brett, we're talking about maybe 1 or 2 decisions in a season.
Yes.
That may happen.
But that's almost indirect communication there.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Because you know each other, you're speaking between the lines of you're kind of saying, if you could say it, you'd say, no, I don't really agree with you yet. Look at this thing. But you don't say those words. You just say, I have one more angle. And that slows down the referee. Now, some referees seem to blow through that. Some French referees, I think, seem to kind of go, I don't want to know about all that. No, and
we play.
Like Angus is more deliberative kind of guy, contemplative guy. I could see him wanting to see all the angles and kind of not be fussed about it. Like, I'm okay. I'll do this. So it strikes me you have to play the psychologist almost there.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And listen, I was at a World Cup in last year where I was TMOing for 4 or 5 I have 5 different nationalities that I TMO'd for. And they're all working in different leagues where, to be fair, I had worked with all of them in the lead up to the World Cup, so it wasn't a surprise what I was walking into. But it wasn't 20 games with Nick Berry. It was 2 games with another referee from France, or it was 1 game with another referee from Ireland, or whatever that was. So you didn't have that relationship per se where you go, I fully trust this guy. So that's something that we're now working really hard on is that going into the next World Cup, we're building relationships, building up that, because you're right. It is almost like, hey, wait, shut up and listen to me here.
It kind of sounds like a caddy, like the best caddies in golf. They're kind of part psychologists. And they go, the 3 are, but I just want to say the 3 iron could also get there. And the golfer's like, no, I'm going to do the 4 iron.
I know you think you can get there with 9 iron, but I'm just holding 7 here. Just think about it. Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking, Harry? If my caddy told me if you could go TMO at the 7s for 1 Olympics, I could be the greatest TMO of all time.
I'm not joking. I was literally approached by a guy, a waiter at La Colombe, and he was excited to see me a little bit. But then he said, "Do you know Jamie Wall?" And he said, "How could we get him here so he could do a how's good about our place, our restaurant?" And I said, "I'll put in a word for you." So it became like a Michelin star. That was the Jamie Wall approval.
Did you become Jamie Wall's booking agent? Did you?
No, but so I know you've been in and around the South African story for such a long time, and the great book everyone must read about the 100 years of it, the 100 years of war of it. But it just felt like a different feeling. I mean, did you feel differently? Did you feel like you were seeing the country in different ways for the first time? How did it kind of, now that you're sitting back and have a little bit of a chance to reflect?
Yeah, absolutely, I did. I mean, it's that's the great thing about our jobs, is that we get to go places and see things and experience things in a kind of a different way than you normally would, because you're working, and you can either look at it as a work trip where you're just hectic and, you know, messing around all the time, or you can look at it as like, well, this is what it would actually be like to live here. You know, like I'm using the public transport system. I'm sort of having to find quick fixes for dinner and how to get around, and I'm having to interact with people who live here about just basic normal stuff, not just getting up in the morning and jumping on a tour bus and going somewhere and having everything handed to you. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's kind of cool to know that when you leave a place, you have a sort of better knowledge of just the local customs and environment and the way things are done. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert or anything, and you know, I would have loved to sort of picked up a bit more of the language and things, but you know, there's only so much you can do in 2 weeks. But I think with that, it was more just letting people know that this is a cool place. We're having a good time. And I think also from a New Zealand point of view, whenever we talk about South Africa, there's this big narrative of safety. Like, is it a safe place to go? You know, are you going to be okay? And I just wanted people to know, like, yeah, I'm safe. I'm having a great time. Like I wouldn't be doing this if bad things were happening to me. And this was the best way to do it. Instead of saying, oh, you know, just talking about danger and safety, just talk about positivity, because then people are more likely to engage. And I think it worked, because a lot of people were saying, like, wow, I'm sort of viewing this in a different sort of way. Like, don't get me wrong, like, you know, we were careful about what we did and where we went and everything, but yeah, at no point at all did I feel unsafe or threatened.
Was that the longest period of time you'd spent in South Africa? You felt like you had the chance to really do it justice?
Oh, it was my first time in South Africa. Right. I'd not been. I was supposed to go in 2020.
Oh,
yeah, I was supposed to go in 2020, but I obviously, you know what happened that year. So yeah, this was my first time, and I think that we all left thinking, man, this tour, which is like 99% confirmed, if that goes ahead, like, that's going to be an epic 5 weeks, because now when we go back, we are going to get to do the things we wanted to do, and we are going to be able to see more of the things. And because we kind of know our way around a little bit, we're going to be able to share that knowledge with people.
Do you remember going back in time to your first one? I looked it up, and it was 2010 versus England in Perth. And I looked at the front row was Daly, Fainga, and Mafu, and then you came on for Daly, and then Mafu was sin-binned by Nigel Owens almost immediately. So do you remember what happened next?
Yeah, I had to go tight end.
Nice.
That's what happened next.
On debut.
Yeah, on debut, it was a 5 meter. It was on my 5 meters. So, like, we're under the pump. And I've said this before, like, our scrum wasn't going well that night. And I'm on the bench for a reason. Like, it's, you know, the starters are the starters back then anyway. Like, they were the better players. So I remember getting put on. At Louw said, 1 scrum, 2 scrums, Celestia gets sent off. I have to go to tight end because there was only 1 prop on the bench back then. And
of course. Yeah.
So we had to pack another, I don't know, 3 or 4 scrums, and then they ended up getting a penalty try.
And you what, 21 years old?
Welcome to Test rugby.
Yeah, and 15 years later, Robbie Deans describes it as, we threw him in the deep end.
Yeah, it was, mate, I was felt like I was sinking there for a bit.
With games like that, you think you're coming out of it shorter.
Yeah, it was a surreal moment because I was so nervous. Like it was, like these nerves I've never felt before. But in saying that, I was so young that I was just naive as well. So I was like once I get out there, I'll be all right. We ended up winning the game, so it ended up being a really good night for me, and it's still one of my favourite games. I know I probably got pumped a bit, but we won the game for Australia over England, and on debut, you couldn't ask for much more than that.
No, certainly. Is your first scrum always the sign of, all right, now I'm into the game? Is that's the moment where you realise, righto, we're on?
Oh, well, probably like that for that game it was, because I got subbed on into a scrum. So it was like getting punched on the nose, mate. Like I had no time to think about it. I was straight into it. But yeah, I only had I had 3 super games under my belt at the time, and 2 of them were like 10 minutes off the bench. So I had one proper game of Super Rugby. So I didn't really know what I was up for. I didn't know that Test Rugby was another couple of steps up, really.
Yeah. I can't help but wonder if much of the fallout from that result is because of the way Australia were. They weren't even underestimated. They were just written off. This was just a game that England needed to win by 30, and were expected to win by 30.
Yeah. The only bit of my prediction that I got right, I said that England would win by 11, I think, which was still lower than the handicap. But I said that I thought it was 6 of the same guys on the bench that were on the bench at Sydney for the Bledisloe, and I thought that Australia would give England a really nervy time around 60. It turned out that they gave them a really nervy time from 20 through to 60, and then again at the end, and they just continued to. And the other total gaff that I made, which I haven't said out loud anywhere, but I think is only fair to say, was that having an editor was sort of before kickoff, I'm really interested in Suoliti and how he goes, and I was thinking, and I said out loud, I'm not sure what he does in league is going to translate that well to union actually. And he said, well, I've signposted that, and that was turned out that was the dumbest thing ever, because as everybody had said in the week, Joe Schmidt isn't going to let someone play who's not ready. And not only did he, it wasn't like come and have a game. It was, we're going to make sure your athleticism, your skills are allowed to shine, and people are, and even facilitate others. I think he got 4 restarts back out of 5 that were within his reach, which is mad. That is just as far as how important that is for the general shift of momentum in a game. That's huge, and just have to applaud both him and the coaching staff.
A mate, Harry, Steve Lenthal, a colleague of ours, sent me a breakdown of the restarts for the game, and I think, and I haven't got it in front of me, but I think what he showed me was that of the, what was it, maybe 9 or 10 restarts for the game, of the contested ones, England won 1 of them. And so again, you're talking about things that Australia didn't do well through the Rugby Championship. Restarts was, prime amongst that. So all of a sudden, he was this guy who showed tremendous athleticism, and because they were playing him in that one-man in channel, which is very similar to what he was playing in rugby league for the Sydney Roosters this year, he just made it work. And they, as we discussed last week, they played him in a way that gave him familiarity.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for me to overreact too much and say that Joseph's going to be this good against all kinds of different teams. I think this particular type of game suited him because it was so pell-mell. When I was writing notes, I thought this is way too loose. It's too chaotic. I also think they probably didn't scout him very well.
it's maybe unfair, but that little period that summed it up for me was that they were involved in this kind of stalemate, leading by 2 points, 30-28, and Harry Randall's on, who is not, I think it's fair to say, not renowned as this super accurate box kicker, but he's doing a decent enough job. Eventually, he gets partially charged, or he gets charged down and goes into touch, doesn't he? And there's another line out. The strike moves have just been really clunky now. They were amazing in the last game in the Six Nations against France, and they've been pretty average ever since. And they work something that is quite intricate, and Lawrence doesn't hold on to it. And he's through at least the half gap if he does, but instead it's almost if you were being kind of I guess if you were weighted towards England, how England's seeing that, it's a 14-point swing. Or it's not quite, because I'm not sure I'm not sure England are exactly scoring from there, but they're certainly kind of making a break. And then you're back into this. There's a neurosis about them, I think, and that's really tricky. I don't know how that gets shaken off.
That was a moment that I put out on Sunday, Harry. That was one of those pictures that I identified. There was lots of space in behind that line, because Sua'ali'i had actually bitten too far in. He dragged Kellaway in as well. So if Lawrence holds that pass, he's almost certainly already in space. He's got winger outside him. Can't think who
it would have been Freeman.
Yeah, outside him. And even though this is all happening on halfway, I'm not sure Australia's stopping them from that point. So it was a real turning point moment, and it was also one of those moments that if like bounce of the ball and Kellaway's just happens to be in the right square meter of turf at that moment in time, and
then running diagonally because Harry's
he tried to go right and then realized that's not going to work. I've actually got to jig left and go as far away as I possibly can, and showed enough wheels in the end, Harry.
With the huge diagonal assist, I love it. We've all been in that. It's almost like a bad dream you have where you're being chased by someone and you're not sure you're fast enough. Kellaway was like, "I'm going to go right to the corner. I don't care how hard it makes the conversion."
It's that we'll have to ask you about that one day. That crushing moment where you think, "You beauty, I'm under the post." No, I'm not. I'm scoring the corner. Well, that was really cool, mate. A really enjoyable chance to go back through all of our great guests from last year like that and pick out just some favorite bits.
Yeah, it's proper nostalgia. And a lot of those brought a smile. Some of them were just really, really good rugby chats. But I just enjoy hearing someone like Tony Johnson, who I've always enjoyed listening to him do comms. And then kind of
as you mentioned in the clip,
and then pull back the curtain a little bit about the how. And I think surprisingly, like sometimes like Jamie Wall, I just didn't know. I figured he had been to South Africa before because he wrote a book about it. And then to realize that he was on his first real safari down there and having a great time.
Absolutely. And look, of all the animals that I thought Andrew Kellaway might have been scared of, I didn't have friendly lorikeets as being one of them. But anyway, there you go.
Birds are our ancient enemy, Brett.
Birds, yes, indeed. We're aiming to be back in early February to get into the 2025 rugby year, launch season 2 of the 8-9 combo in what is going to be a massive year in rugby. In the meantime, we've got a few little things to finalise about how we're going to tackle it all. Six Nations, Champions Cup and all the European competitions, the Lions Tour of Australia, all the international rugby that follows in the back half of the year. So a few little bouncing balls that we've just got to collect, isn't there?
No, I'm excited. I think we've happened upon some. We've actually sat down and really thought through what would appeal to you guys out there, what we think has appealed to you in the past, and try to build upon that. And one of those is we like relationships, and we like the relationships we've built. So we're gonna bring back more and more some of the guests that we know from the numbers and from our own enjoyment.
And that you've just seen in these clips.
We really resonated. And so that way we can build a longer story, bigger story with those instead of, and also it'll help us because, finding a guest every single week is quite the stress, the stress producer.
It can be. It certainly can be. Yeah.
And we have a blockbuster opener. You guys are all going to love who we got because you just won't believe who we're starting the season with.
They might. based on what we did last year. Look, in the meantime,
Rugby Club one again. Oh my God, he's getting tired of us.
wouldn't that? Yeah, he'll be the head of the RFU by then. In the meantime, be sure to find and follow the 8-9 Combo on Twitter and on YouTube and on Blue Sky now as well. And you can keep up all our movements. Leave us a rating or a review wherever you can. And share us as far and as wide as you possibly can, please. And thank you. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport as well. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realise you needed in a rugby podcast. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones. Sean Maloney is locked and loaded and ready to go in the closer. And we'll be back in your ears for 2025 very soon.
Come back and play with us.
Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team Combo go in again.